Hello, welcome to my channel, Conscious Growing. I'm Matthias. And today's topic is floating through my chronic symptoms. And what I share with you is the idea and the background of the work of Dr. Claire Weeks. And she was a doctor in Australia, and she worked with lots of people with chronic illnesses, most cases anxiety symptoms, but then usually when you're dealing with anxiety symptoms, you are facing physical symptoms as well. And so the anxiety is related to the physical symptoms, of course. And that was her great field. And so she lived in the 60s. I was um, writing some books in the 60s. So one of her main books is Hope and Help for Your Nerves. And what she discovered was that when you come to the point in your life and you um, develop some anxiety or some fears and some overwhelming and chronic conditions, then it's a clear sign that the nervous system is overwhelmed. And it can have many reasons. So in my personal case, I came to some kind of threshold in my career, in my life as a teacher. And then all of a sudden, after my corona infections, I was really sick and had no energy and was trying to find ways out of it. And then with some time, it became more clear that this is all based on a dysregulated nervous system and the background, which is the background of her work and the things she discovered in her work. And I want to pick up one of the aspects of her ideas of how to work with it. And this is the idea of floating through the symptoms. So what does that mean? Yeah, first of all, we have to understand that we don't need to understand, because it's quite obvious and quite likely for most of sufferers, is when you have a flare-up, when the symptoms are stronger, also when the symptoms are changing, when you get new symptoms, means you are on this course for a while and you already developed some success and you got rid of some of the symptoms, and then new one comes, and then these ones start to frighten you as well, and you think, oh, am I back to square one, or do I have another condition now? And all these questions come up, and of course these fire on the nervous system, and they cause more anxiety and more symptoms. This is a cycle. So, yeah, and then on the other hand, so the big question is, what is the first response? What is the response when symptoms come up? And what usually happens is we don't want them. And we don't want them in the first place. And secondary, we want to get rid of them. And these strategies don't work. But it takes some time to understand this, because most sufferers will do or use this approach again and again. So symptom comes and there's this inner reaction. Oh no, my God, this is this symptom again. oh, there's a new symptom, I don't want it. And so with this, we create this vicious cycle, and within this vicious cycle, through the very first reaction, we create more symptoms, more anxiety. And so this suggestion here is to learn to respond differently. And this is again, this is all practice. It needs time and practice. So, for example, when these symptoms come, when you are able to not react on the what she called the second fear. And so the thing is, you can't influence the first reaction. You can't. Sorry, I have to start again. I will not cut this video, and I will allow that I did a little mistake, and so I start again. So what I want to say is, you can't influence the symptom itself, or the reaction in your body, or the upcoming pain. You don't have any influence on it. But what we have is we have influence on the reaction on it. What she called the second fear. Means the symptoms come, you react, oh no, oh God, no, 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 this again. Or you don't react, first of all. And then even more secondary, you face it. You say, okay, it's there. I've been here several times already, and I know it isn't pleasant, but I meet it as neutral as possible, or with some practice, even with some attitude of, okay, be here, like some indifferent attitude, and say, okay, you can be here, I'm here, and I allow you to be here. So the house is open. And so this is a huge difference, as you already see and hear and feel. And it also has a physical aspect, because when the first reaction is, oh no, not again, I don't want this, what happens most of the times unconsciously is that we are tensing our body. So we are tensed up. So we are more tensed up anyway while we go through this. But then this reaction, this very reaction, causes more tension. So we tense up more. And most of the times we don't feel it. It's more subtle, but then you find yourself back with some neck pains or shoulder pains and headaches and back pains, all sorts of pains. And most of the times you see, okay, I'm in this scary state, but somehow I don't understand why I always end up there. And here's one of the answers, or this was one of the answers, to see that, yeah, the very first reaction on the upcoming symptom is another contraction. And so we are in this, back in this defensive mode, or in this fight or flight mode, and or even freeze mode if it takes us longer. And then all these other things follow, like, okay, let's say I'm in the fight or flight state, so I'm not in the present moment. I want to get rid of it. I want to get out of this moment. I distract myself with unhealthy patterns in worst case. So, so the suggestion is, okay, I react differently. I react differently on this so-called second fear, but then what's happening then might be the question. And it's a good question, because um, what does floating mean? Floating means that you take the opportunity when the symptom comes up. You only can turn your um, health journey, you just can turn them in a new direction. You can turn in a new direction when you are able to face these symptoms. Because as long as you try to avoid them and run away from them, they get bigger, they stay, they persist. We all know that. So facing um, can have many levels, and floating can have many levels as too. So first of all, you face it, you don't run away. You say, okay, it's there, it's in me, there's something unpleasant working in me. I am with it, I allow to be with it right now. And then you already create some space. And in this space, there might be a choice. You might find choices. Maybe not many choices, but at least the choice to say, okay, I'm sitting here right now with this sensation, and I'm allowing it to be here, and I give it some attention, but I'm not ruled by it. So I just allow it. I decide we sit here and you can do whatever you want, and I can accept this and be with it. Or another choice could be to take some action, to say, okay, anyway, the symptoms are there, it's not pleasant, so maybe I sit here 10 minutes, but then I also decide, okay, I gave you some attention, but my conscious mind decides what to do, whether the symptoms are there or not, because they might not go immediately. But then still you can figure out, what can I do? What do I want to do? What would I do if I didn't have the symptoms right now? What would be my choice? And then you can take action, and can be simple things. Maybe you just go to the kitchen and have a tea, looking out of the window and see the sky, for example. Or even more action. You could say, okay, it's there, and I'm retraining my brain, and I'm saying, okay, I go to the store and get some stuff in this state. And I stay as calm and as collected as possible, and I do it. And here's the mentioned aspect of floating. And this is a recommendation from this book, and I practiced it for a little while already. So floating means, this floating, of course, it's connected to the reaction, the way I react on the symptom when they come up. So I react with less intrusive thoughts also. And then I decide to float through this situation. And for some people who have good imagination, you might have a picture, a helpful picture, a light picture, which helps you to go through the situation. So means like, yeah, for some it can be a light day in their garden, sitting there, and birds and bees around, and everything is flourishing. It also can be a real floating idea, something you float in water, or in salt water. You're just floating on the surface of this salt water. So something that carries you, something that relaxes you, the image relaxes you. And for some people, they are not able to create such pictures of floating, but you just can use the word floating. So let's say there is some panic in you, you feel some panic in you or some anxiety. And in the usual case, you would say, I'm avoiding, I can't go now, I can't go in these kind of states, it's too dangerous, I feel so insecure and all these things. But with some courage and some practice, you could say, okay, um, I feel this right now, I accept it to be there, but I also take this little action. And then I decide, okay, with this attitude, I go to the store. And so I create this idea of I'm floating. So I forget the idea where I am. I'm moving forward. I don't get stuck in the fear, in this fear that wants to keep me, or the anxiety that wants to keep me, or the symptoms and the fear that want to keep me. And I just float forward a little bit. And then I go to the store. And then I stand in the queue. And maybe it gets worse, but still I'm floating. I'm floating. I'm safe. I know that this body is not broken, and it's not I will not break down. I will not break down and fall to pieces. I will not get a heart attack in the queue. None of these things will happen. And I'm just in the present moment with all the sensations which are there, and then I do it, and I don't rush through it. I float through it. So it's not an exercise. It's not like, okay, let's do it for the list. I go to the store, and then hopefully everything works well. Um, I have to get out as fast as possible. Hopefully the queue is short. All these questions. No, 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 no. You are floating. You decide to float. You float through the situation, and you stay present, and you stay as long as it takes, like for all the others. Calming down your mind. I'm here. I'm floating. And then this picture, if you are able to create it in your mind, any helpful picture like floating. And this floating is more present than trying to find um, these just mentioned security mechanisms, which never work, because then you're always trying to find something that saves you, but it can't save you. And so what's happening then is that when you go out and when you're back, you make the experience that nothing bad happened and you were able to do it. And then some confidence comes. For example, imagine you haven't done this for a while because you were bedbound or housebound, and then you do this for the first time with this kind of attitude. This feeling, oh, I have done it again, is a feeling of confidence, and it's a feeling of self-assurance. And on this, with this kind of attitude, we can build up more trust and also more security, because the point is, you are not safer in your home than, like in this example, like in the queue in the supermarket. You're not safer. You're, it's still you. It's still you with some unpleasant symptoms. Maybe when you do it and you teach your brain that you are able to stay calm and do this action, it's a lesson for your scared brain. You show him or her, hey, I can do it. and nothing happens. Maybe it creates positive energies in you and you have done it, and then you say, well, oh, next day I can do it again, and then you might have more panic the next time, but it's not a setback. You just decide to float again. You make this decision to float again. Unpleasant feelings, okay. And maybe, this is not, this doesn't mean that when you have done it 1, 2, 3, 4 times, 5 times, it doesn't mean that you have overcome it. It needs constant practice. So both like being with it, allowing it to be there, and then float through the situation, through that what you ever want to do, and then on this trail you will feel like, wow, the next day there was so much more panic in me, and still you're floating. It doesn't change your attitude. But with this change of attitude, you become calmer. And then the thing is, okay, when you become calmer and you are more able to flow through it, your brain chemistry will change, because when you don't feed this situation less with worried thoughts and scared reactions, scared responses, then your nervous system can calm down, and it will produce less adrenaline, and it will produce less cortisol. So these stress chemicals will be lower, and then when they are lower, you are more confident to do it because you feel more well in your system again. But when you start this, it might be, you might be full of adrenaline and it might be very unpleasant. But the point is, you shift your attention to the possibility, to the idea of floating, to the idea of I allow it to be there, and then I go through it. And so if you're listening and if you haven't done actions for quite a while, the steps may be smaller. So it doesn't need this store thing right in the beginning. Maybe you start having 5 steps in front of your door, or going down the stairway a few steps. Whatever it might be, you see like where is a challenge, where is this point where you can do a little bit more, where you can challenge you a little bit more, and then you decide, and then you float. But the main message is that the main training happens, of course, not when you're pushing through. If you want to push, and if you have this attitude, I have to do it, I have to show to myself that I'm capable, and when you do it with a tensed attitude and with a pushing attitude, then your nervous system and your body will give you also more symptoms again and more feedback again. But anyway, on the other hand, any action you take will cause more symptoms in the beginning. That's part of the game. And the only thing is how you respond on it. But your attitude to do these things and see that you are able to, and you make little progress with this kind of attitude and this kind of approach, this will bring some success sooner or later. And yeah, it can be really unpleasant, and you might not feel like a hero in the beginning, but always also consider that where you start and what you already, what kind of success you already had, and make it clear to yourself. Because let's say if you haven't been out for a while and you do these few steps outside, then this is a success. Don't compare yourself with the rest of the world. Just see from where you started and just see the progress you made. And it's good sometimes to be clear about this. And these insights will not come when you are in a hypersensitive state and you only see the danger and the struggle and so on. But when you're more calmed down, then you should reflect and see, wow, look, this week, what have I done? This last month compared to the month before, so much progress. Also to see this is really important. So that's it for today, and I hope that you can get something out of it, and I encourage you to start facing your symptoms and float through them and see where it takes you. And don't give up right in the beginning, because in the beginning it will take some time, because one of the things I have to mention this before I leave you for today is an important point, is when you start facing and floating in the very beginning, some anxiety and some symptoms might feel even stronger than ever. And why is that? It is like now you are focusing on your symptoms. You give space to them. Before you were running away, you try to distract yourself, but now you have the courage to face them. And the nature of these sensations and also these psychological patterns is like it feels bigger in the beginning. But this is a start to master yourself again. And so you don't want to be ruled by your symptoms, and you don't want to be ruled by your emotions and mental states. You want to find ways how to be more active again and not to be ruled. So if you like this video, please thumb up, and if you're interested in this kind of content, please subscribe my channel. And I always say, maybe there's someone out there hanging in despair, don't know where to go, people hanging in anxiety. You can send it to these kind of people, and they might have some benefit also. So I have a good float through your day. Bye for now.